We're off and we're live.
We're live. Very good. Well, this has been, there's a lot of backstory as to what it took to get us here, but I'm delighted to say that we're here to talk about color grading today. I have Alex Jordan with me. Alex Jordan is someone that I met probably 4 weeks ago, and the way this happened, I was on YouTube. I was looking around at different color grading videos. I found this channel called Learn Color Grading, and I was like, wow, I'm learning a lot from this. And so I left a little comment, and Alex, you got back to me, and here we are.
Great.
So just quickly, Alex, if you wouldn't mind, just give us a little background on, how did you become a DP and how did you get into color grading and all that business?
Okay. Originally, I was always interested in film. I'm just going to keep this short. I used to be, and on film days before the DSLR revolution, as I would like to call it, it was I couldn't actually get into film cameras. I didn't go to film school or anything, and just like everybody, so I worked as close as possible to film by working as an audio engineer for a while, and then as an editor.
Okay.
And as an editor, we used to have a film crew. They used to go and film and everything. And I used to be just in charge of editing. And when the DSLR revolution happened, I was like, wow, and now I can shoot. And I started learning stuff. And I discovered that I'm a good DP, weirdly. I didn't really expect that to happen. And I really like it. It's just that's all. And when it comes to color grading, I watched a lot of courses, worked with a lot of colorists, just tried to work around, and I like color grading in general. So they just keep this part short.
Yeah.
Let's just say that I'm working as a colorist.
Okay. Okay. That's cool. And I think, what was interesting is when we met, and then I actually signed up for your course and started working through that about 2/3 of the way through that over the course of just a couple of evenings. So
Oh,
one thing I really noticed was, and I've done other courses before, I will confess, but I was pretty. What impressed me, and what kind of got me excited about this was that you have this style that's super concise. Like I was able to within 2 hours work through a ton of material, and a lot of times when you see those different courses offered online, it's like 84 hours of training material, and you're like, when am I going to have 84 hours to work through all that,
my
It's,
point. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You see,
so,
sorry, please go ahead.
yeah. So what
Yes.
I was going to say, so I guess from the perspective of someone who's really just kind of getting started on this, a lot of us enthusiasts and maybe people are just starting to shoot professionally. Most of us have cameras that don't shoot. We might have flat profiles, but we don't have log profiles. And so I guess kind of starting there, what's your advice for someone who's getting started as far as profiles to use? Because I know they're kind of the common thinking is use a flat profile if you've got it because you'll get a lot more latitude. Or are you of that mindset, or do you think maybe just sticking with some of like one of the built-in profiles?
Wow, that's a very okay. So basically, it's I don't think the profiles really matters as much as we want them to do. Now, one of the most important things that profiles give you is not about the latitude. Profiles for me are not about the latitude. I mean, at the end of the day, you're always going to end up with a contrasty image. So even if you started with a contrasty profile, you're still going to be getting a good shot, and you can grade that. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing that I like about flat and log profiles is the highlight roll-off. So one of the main things that really gives away, I can't really say cheap cameras. Of course, a good filmmaker with a cheap camera is going to get phenomenal footage anyway. But where cameras usually fall short is where, with the highlight roll-off, how fast they go from being mid-tones to really blowing up the highlights really fast. So that's the only benefit that I personally like about log and flat profiles. If you can shoot these, of course, that's much better. But if you don't have them, there's no need to delay any of the work you want to do just waiting for a camera that shoots flats or log.
Okay, okay, and that makes sense. And it's interesting because I was actually one of the things I did last night was I saw you have another course over there at filmsimplified.com, and we'll leave links for these down below. But in that one, you show the difference between a log and a flat and a standard profiles, and I was astonished at the highlights and how the differences were there.
Yeah. I think highlights is the most important. I mean, think of a camera like the Arri Alexa. Why do people like Alexas? I mean, I think the main thing about an Arri Alexa is how beautifully it handles highlights. So, but still, as a filmmaker, you don't have to have an Alexa. You can work with anything, and you can always. I think of color grading. Like think of somebody who's drawing. If you have a guy who's very good at drawing and you give him just a very normal pencil, like the cheapest kind of pen, he's just going to give you a very beautiful image,
Yeah.
like a very beautiful drawing. And if and the best pen with somebody like me, you're going to end up with a disaster. Actually, yeah. So the whole point about the course was this. Now there are two types of people who learn color grading. There's the person who wants to become a colorist, somebody who wants to invest in a $30,000 panel, and work and have like a color grading facility and do a lot of work for people, and that's great. For these people, you need like very long courses. They might take years to get there, and it's a very lengthy process. However, there are the other types of filmmakers who are just, like me and you, or like every filmmaker, somebody who just wants to make a short film, somebody who wants to make films for YouTube, somebody who works in wedding, filmmaking. A lot of people, they don't really need to learn to become real. I wouldn't say real colorists. That's not the term. I'm not sure, for the lack of term, I'm not sure what to say. But there should be a resource that is very, very easy and very fast to understand. And that's why I created the course. I tried to make it as fast as possible and as easy as possible without compromising the quality. And I was astonished because when I first introduced the first course, I really thought that nobody would look at it. Nobody would care about this course whatsoever. And all of a sudden, people started rolling in, and I was like, "What's happening?" And people really liked it. And then they started writing reviews, and I was like, "Wow, people really like this thing." So I think people are looking for an easy and a very easy and fast way to learn as much as they can about a tool like DaVinci Resolve. You have to think of it this way. We have to be DaVinci Resolve, like what, 7 or 8 years ago? Or less. DaVinci Resolve used to cost like more than $100,000 just to get your hands on Resolve. It used to be more than, and now it's free.
Yeah.
Okay, and everybody has this magnificent tool, but a lot of people are afraid to use it because, as you said, like some of the courses, they're great courses. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong. They're very great courses, but you can't really wait for like 40 hours to go through a course just to get a grasp of what's happening.
Right.
Right. You're working. You need to finish as fast as possible. Yeah. So that's what really got the course starting.
Got it. Good. So for someone who is getting started in color grading, and I will confess, and maybe it's different for different people, but I found like when I first started using Resolve, you have the color wheels, you have your primaries, you have your log, you also have your RGB curves. Which of those is the best one to start with?
Well, I received this question a couple of weeks ago also. Okay, now personally, I'm not saying what's right and what's wrong. I'm saying what I do personally. I always think of curves as a color correction tool. So if I'm color correcting, I usually use curves. Okay. And I use wheels, whether log or primaries, to actually grade. Okay, or to give it a certain look to the image. However, that's not, of course, if somebody wants to grade with curves, you can do that, of course, it works fine. But that's what I usually do, because curves are very precise. Like when using curves, it's very delicate balance. It's a very delicate balance between RGB and, it's very easy to color correct, like that YouTube video that you saw that got us introduced to each other. So yeah, that's definitely the way I see it.
Okay, that's fascinating because to be honest, at that time when I saw it, so you had a video that talked about using curves to quickly, in essence, white balance and color balance, and I have always been, up until now, as a photographer, no problem. I could use curves, at least a kind of a luma curve, no problem. I totally get that, but when you started, as soon as you got to RGB curves, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't understand. If I move this one here, what happens to these other two? And the way you kind of described, hey, color balancing, it's a matter of getting a sample and then, align them vertically, and boom, all of a sudden things are kind of white balanced. It's like, whoa.
And unfortunately, that was one of the best kept secrets. I mean, no, I have to admit, like a lot of colorists, they just want to have, extra information. So there are some things that you can't really find on YouTube, unfortunately. That's why I have, if you notice, like on the platform, there's a paid course, which is a course that teaches you how to use DaVinci Resolve for color grading, and there's a free course. The free course have a lot of the things that I consider essentials. I mean, you can't really get people paying for that. That's really these are the basics. So that's a free course that teaches you how to use curves to color correct. Because unfortunately, this was one of the things that are considered quote unquote underground.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's boy, if people haven't seen that, I highly recommend go over, take a look at the free. So it's a color correction, and LUTs is the free course.
Yeah.
And that one's amazing too. But then also in the color grading with, or I think technically it's called DaVinci Resolve Simplified.
Yeah.
That course, it's funny too. There were some things that so one of the things in DaVinci Resolve, oftentimes if I'm going to be pulling secondaries, I'll kind of zoom in to make sure I'm kind of getting my sample from the place I want it. But sometimes it's like, well, I don't want to zoom in just to the center. I want to be able to pan around. And I was like, how do you do that? There are no scroll bars. There's no, I can't do control, command. None of these keys help me do that. How do I do it? And it was like you had this one little, like a minute and 30 second.
It was a dedicated video for this particularly because that really frustrates people. Like, I can grade, but I can't pan, I can't zoom. What should I do? Yeah, so I had to put a video especially for this.
Yeah, and it's funny because that was like, it was funny because when I started working through the course, it was like, okay, I had probably, and it was something I never really wrote down and thought to myself, it's one of those things where it's like a niggling little issue that you're like, someday I'm going to solve that. I'm going to figure out how to do this, and I just never gotten around to it. And then sure enough, I watched your course. There it is.
Thank you. Thank you.
So good job covering those basics. So. Okay, good. So, what other kind of trainings do you have available over on your site?
Okay, now I have three main resources. Two of them are completely free. We just launched, we relaunched the site learncolorgrading.com, and it's a free site now that teaches you color grading. However, it doesn't. What it doesn't teach is a certain platform. Teaches you all the concepts. So you see some of the concepts taught on Resolve, some of the concepts taught on Premiere, some of the concepts on SpeedGrade. That's a free resource, and we have the filmsimplified.com. It's a platform where I'm not sure that I'll be able to post a lot of more courses, but supposedly it should be simplifying stuff for filmmakers. Because when you try to learn things, unfortunately, it's either you go to YouTube. YouTube is great, a ton of information on YouTube, always. The problem is not systematic. You have just to keep on searching and getting what you can get and trying to, to put the pieces together. However, so basically we have DaVinci Resolve Simplified, and we have another course that simplifies SpeedGrade and Premiere Pro. That's a new thing, and we have the free course, which is the LUTs and color correction course.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I completely agree. In terms of YouTube, I really love YouTube. There's so much you can learn there, but sometimes it's like I got something I gotta learn this. I don't have time to search around the whole world and try and figure it out. So it's nice to have that kind of really condensed, really concise, really focused, type of training. So good.
Yeah.
What else? What other kind of tips can you give those of us that are maybe kind of beginner intermediate in terms of color grading? What are some things to consider, or what are some things to maybe not do that we've probably been told 100 times to do that it might be better to put that off until we kind of master some fundamentals?
Okay. Now, one of the things that I find people always struggling with is they doubt their cameras, they doubt their formats. Everybody have this question, I'm using a 5D. Will I be able to grade that? That's not true. I mean, given that you're not using the Magic Lantern thing. Or, I have a 600D or whatever. The thing is, you should always consider the difference between resolution and look. Okay? And you can get any look you want with these cameras. Okay, any look that you want with any camera formats. Things are so powerful now. Resolve can guess a lot of the colors inside or any other coloring platforms. So your camera you can always get the look you want with your camera. However, just consider the problem comes with resolution. So if you're going to be screening this on a 10-foot screen on the theater somewhere, of course your footage is not going to hold up nicely, of course, but most of our films will either end on TVs, HD TVs, or they end up on the web. So for TV and web, all the cameras that we're using can grade perfectly. There's nothing wrong with the look, and you can get anywhere you want with any. You can get any look you want with any camera, because people doubt their camera. So the first thing I would tell people, without telling me what your camera is, it works. Don't ask about that. However, the only place where it might not work is that if you're showing it on a huge screen, a large screen, or a theater somewhere, yeah, you might run into some trouble. But as long as you're showing it, it works fine. It holds the shadows fine. And frankly, come on, we have cameras now that can shoot 11 and 12 stops of dynamic range that cost like what? How much is the like nothing? You can get a U60 for how much?
Yeah, like $1,000. I don't know. It's
like nothing. Yeah, it's unbelievable. When we used before it was so expensive, and the old days was unbelievable. So yes, your camera works. Just don't doubt your cameras, because everybody, all of the people that I work with, I see them starting working, and then whenever something doesn't work, they always blame the camera, the codec. The monitor. Sometimes they blame the monitor. They look at them. I don't have a very calibrated monitor. It just doesn't work. No, it can work.
Yeah.
It always can work. Just don't doubt anything. Just keep on trying, and you'll get there somewhere.
Okay, so I think that's good advice. So stop obsessing about your camera and just get out and shoot.
Seriously, and you can grade any footage. Seriously.
Yeah, yeah. What you touched on. Monitor calibration a little bit. So there are those of us. So for example, I've got an iMac that I work on primarily. Is that good enough? Because if I go to the forum, if I go to the Lift Gamma Gain forum, I will be shot with a cannonball, told that I have no business there. I shouldn't be doing any color grading on my iMac.
Okay. Now again, okay. For 1% of the jobs or the color grading work out there, that's true. Okay, again, if you're going to theater, that's true. If you have a client who's paying $10,000 to work on your footage, of course you need to calibrate everything in your life for that amount. Yeah. But on the other hand, for the rest of us, no, you do not need to obsess over monitor calibration. I have a film in the course that talks about this very simple concept. If you want to know if your colors are right, just play any movie, any blockbuster, any like Hollywood kind of movie on your footage, and this is how your footage should look. Because when you play a film on your monitor that was professionally graded in Hollywood, it should, when you see it on your monitor, this film is affected by the imperfections of your monitor. So you know how your footage, so if my footage looks like this film, it looks great. Great, okay. You might get like the super professional colorist telling you that what you're doing is wrong.
Yes.
And it is wrong, but who cares? Who cares? I mean, you're never going to be showing things on theater. That's the thing. Yeah. It's like people who obsess about 10-bit footage. I mean, this footage is 10-bit. It will grade perfectly. Okay? You know what's the difference between 10 and 8-bit footage? It's negligible. It's not. You can see it in like I'm sorry. You can see it in the sky or in very small artifacts. But when it comes to reality, you can grade 8-bit footage as well as you grade 10-bit footage, as long as you're not going to theater.
Yeah.
That's something very important, and people just they just obsess. I feel a lot of people I work with, they just obsess over what camera, you have DaVinci Resolve. Do you know what that means? Because like 10, 15 years ago, I used to dream of just walking next to a DaVinci Resolve 2K panel, and now you can work on it on your laptop, and you're complaining.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm very emotional about this. I'm sorry.
No. That's great advice, because I think a lot of us get kind of go into this paralysis stage where we don't do as much creative work as we would like to, and that's how we got involved in the first place. Is we had this passion to create something, and then we get kind of into this paralysis stage where we're worried about our gear. I'm worried about my monitor. It's not a 10-bit monitor. I'm worried about my camera, because my camera, so I buy an Atomos Shogun because now I'll be able to get 4K, 10-bit, 422 footage out of my GH4, and so on and so forth. And suddenly, wow! And then I look at that footage. It comes out of that, and I'm like, it looks the same, And it's like,
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I would admit that the only camera that I think looks beautiful just right out of the camera without doing anything is the Arri Alexa. And as long as you're not using Arri Alexa, everything else is the same. Sorry, Red users. Sorry.
Well, it's good to boil it down every once in a while. Good, very good. Well, Alex, I wanted to say thank you so much for your time. We've had some technical challenges getting here, but we've finally done it. I'm really thank you for sticking with me through all that.
Of course.
Tell us where do people go, and of course we'll put links down after the broadcast here. We'll get those all sorted out and links down below. But tell us where people can go, and I think you had a generous offer you wanted to make as well.
The offer is okay. First, people can go to learncolorgrading.com, which is a completely free site that teaches color grading. However, not a certain platform to color grade. And you can go to Film Simplified, where I have 3 courses, and hopefully I'm going to be able to post more courses there. There's a free course, of course, inside that people can join. And now through a special link that you'll be having there, people will be able to get students will be able to get a very good discount through the link down here that you have, and they can go check the course and see what it's all about.
Fantastic.
See if we can help them in any way.
Yeah. Well, I think there's definitely something to gain there, even if you just go check out the free course. So, Alex, thank you so much again for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. And thanks for what you're doing for the community too. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Great. See you. Bye.
Bye.